What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Tuesday? The new season has begun, Lou, man. I see that in the chat as the Titans kick off their 2022 training camp today with an opening press conference as players are required to really show up and attend for training camp, report to camp today as they get going with a press conference at 11:30. We'll have coverage coming from that press conference with Mike Vrabel and John Robinson, the GM, taking part in that. So we'll see what comes out of the presser later on today. Is there any Jeffrey Simmons update? What do they have to say about Treylon Burks and the works he's put in over the last 2 months since being away? We'll kind of see what they think after the Dining Racine report that came out on Sunday that we discussed yesterday at length. But Mike Sando of The Athletic always releases his updated quarterback tiers as training camp approaches, and he did that yesterday. And man, did Ryan Tannehill get humbled hard in these quarterback tiers. We have 3 anonymous quotes from offensive coaches around the league that we will show you guys and dive through. We've got a fair or foul for one of these quotes. We've got me defending Ryan Tannehill on another one of these quotes. And then the third quote honestly aligns with something that Zach's been saying all offseason. So I know he's going to be excited to learn that quote too. So we'll dive in and we'll have a Ryan Tannehill conversation because I think a lot of this season hinges on the success of number 17 at quarterback. And it is Tuesday, so we have Tuesday sports trivia. We're at 80% success rate through 2 weeks. So that's good. We got to keep that thing up as we dive deeper into our new trivia reset after 2 weeks. But Zach, welcome in. Hope your Tuesday's off to a good start.
Yeah, we're approaching the training camp season, so it's getting better and better as we try to get A to Z Sports as organized as possible all across the country now. But we've got a lot in store, and for sports trivia, we're going to be put to the test. We're going to have a little NFL trivia, have a little NBA trivia. Also have a little comic book trivia for our non-sports questions. So you can kind of see maybe the theme down below will actually carry over to the theme at the end of the show, which is our sports trivia. So we'll see how we do. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter. We will tweet out those YouTube links throughout the course of the show as we go through each and every segment. So keep it locked there. Follow us. You'll have, and we're going to report on even more things this year because we got some announcements to make this week that I think fans will be very interested in. And it will make the follow of A to Z Sports on Twitter that much better and that much more special for you. Also on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel. All access, exclusive access to some of our practice videos that we'll be taking in training camp this year. We've got a great team behind us to make sure that we put out the best content on digital that we've been doing for years, but we're upping the ante and we're going to do it even better this year. And on Facebook, the real OGs that have been with us since day one. Bottom left corner of your screen, share now to public. Sharing is caring and caring is sharing on this show. More people are going to be piling in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. As you guys do, please share the broadcast. We need to pop up in your Facebook friends news feed. So let's get this party started on a Tuesday, training camp Tuesday with Vrabel speaking. Titans training camp on the horizon. Let's get it going.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us all over social media as we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. We go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Find the links to the show in our Twitter feed at A to Z Sports. Also, our Instagram story where we share the show as well. But we got to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out you guys. Like Wilson County Hyundai. If you're looking for a new ride, check them out, wilsoncountyhyundai.com, or go see them in Lebanon and make them a part of your new car buying process. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Plus, Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a health plan for you at fbhp.com/ATOZ. Danny says, glad it's trivia day. Somehow he missed it last week. Well, last week we went 8-2, and so we'll wrap up this Tuesday show later on in about an hour with Tuesday's Sports Trivia presented by Brentwood Imprint, where you can get all of your gear to elevate your business at BrentwoodImprint.com. So, Zach, you mentioned announcements coming for A to Z Sports. As the new football season gets ramped up, so do we. So we expanded last August with the launch of our Dallas broadcast market last year. And so we've got more announcements coming. One of them is coming tomorrow, and you'll learn that on this show tomorrow morning on a Wednesday ahead of the first Titans training camp practice that I will be at. And then the other announcements will come next week once the calendar flips to August. So did want to update you guys on that. And Jamie puts out a joke. Malik Willis already higher tier according to anonymous coaches. No, that is not what's going on with Ryan Tannehill. But Mike Sando of The Athletic, Zach, always puts out his quarterback tier rankings around this time every year. And it's something where it's anonymous coaches, executives, general managers around the league, football people who really know what they're doing and give a lot of good analysis with how they tier these quarterbacks. And so it's tier 1 through 5. Last year, Ryan Tannehill was in tier number 2. I'm just going to set the table for everybody just to go through these quarterback tiers, Zach, and then we'll expand, obviously, on Ryan Tannehill. But number 1 in tier 1 is Aaron Rodgers. Number 2 is Patrick Mahomes in tier 1. Tier 1 continues with Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow. That's it. That's quarterback tier number 1. Tier 2 starts with Matt Stafford, Russell Wilson at number 8, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Kyler Murray, and new AFC South rival Matt Ryan.
So timeout. You're saying that, and I haven't seen that list. You're saying he has Justin Herbert above Matt Stafford?
He has Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow above. Now, this is not Mike Sando's rankings. This is his sending out ballots across the country and coming back and going through how everybody else ranked them. This is not Mike Sando's personal opinion. It is the work that he put together to consolidate a list of the aggregate rankings, right?
Well, it's questionable already, but yeah, we all have our opinions, and that's okay. Everybody
do you want me to further explain like who we talked to?
Yeah, please. That's what we're going to be talking about all show. Yes.
Yeah. So the panel, 35 veteran quarterbacks. The panel consisted of 50 NFL coaches and executives, including 6 GMs, 8 head coaches, 10 talent evaluators, so I guess that's another word for scout, 12 coordinators, 6 quarterback coaches, and 7 executives who specialize in analytics. So that's the 50 people, right? GMs, head coaches, talent evaluators, coordinators, quarterback coaches, and analytical executives as well. That is the 50 people who put together this list of 35 veteran quarterbacks to make tiers 1 through 5.
Yeah, and look, the in any list or tier ranking, you're gonna have some question marks, right? So right off the bat, I think that these people or whoever you just named, I believe that they're trying to be first to market with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, and kind of forgetting about Matthew Stafford and Russell Wilson of what they have. The other thing is what the chat is saying, Matt Ryan being tier 2. And this tells me that these individuals believe that Matt Ryan was on the wrong team, right? Because Atlanta struggled mightily in different facets of their franchise. That's the reason why they had so much turnover. Yeah. Arthur Smith is now the head coach from last year. They fired their GM a couple years ago, right? So they had turnover. They believe that Matt Ryan is better than what he showed in Atlanta. But tier 2 for Matt Ryan, I think that's high regard. Yeah, those are high marks.
And we'll continue to talk about Matt Ryan throughout this show this morning. But to continue, Matt Ryan ends tier 2. So if you're keeping track at home, you've got 6 quarterbacks in tier 1, 8 quarterbacks in tier 2. Now we move on to tier 3, the 15th ranked quarterback in this to lead off tier 3, Kirk Cousins of the Minnesota Vikings. Number 16, currently with the San Francisco 49ers, but maybe not for long, Jimmy Garoppolo. And coming in at number 17, matching his jersey number, is Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill at tier 3 overall QB number 17. And here's the first anonymous quote about Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill climbed into tier, this is Sando. Tannehill was in tier 2 last season after a steady ascent, only to slip following a 1-0 playoff performance as the AFC's top seed. Now here's this first quote. He is probably a 3, maybe a 3+, a coach who overlapped with Tannehill in his previous season said. My heart broke for him that he played so poorly. I wonder if he said another word besides poorly there. In that playoff game. He was having such a good year, really 2 years, but I think that it is what it is. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, in a couple of times, they've asked him to be the guy to win games, and he hasn't been able to do it. So that is the anonymous quote for Ryan Tannehill, the first of 3 that we will read. Zach, your reaction immediately, then we'll ask a question to get the chat involved.
I think that you can't say a couple. I think you have to say a few, because if you think about it, in big-time games, they've asked Ryan Tannehill to go to the Super Bowl in Kansas City in the second half, and he was unable to do that. Now, that was a different football team, but they had just beaten the Baltimore Ravens, which is the number 1 seed, 14-2 with Lamar Jackson as MVP. So they asked him to go win that game. He was unable to do it. At home against the Baltimore Ravens, they asked him to go win that game. He threw an interception intended for Khalif Raymond, came up in the hands of a Baltimore Raven. They lose that game. And then we all know just a short time ago, they asked him to go get 3 points with less than 2 minutes to play. Interception.
Yeah.
So I would actually replace, instead of a couple means 2, a few means more than 2. So really, it's a few times, unfortunately, a few times they've asked him to be the guy to go win games, and he hasn't been able to do it.
So I have my thoughts on your comments, and I will get to those. But let's go ahead and ask our first question of the day. Is this first quote, and we're focusing on a couple of times they asked him to be the guy to win the games. He hasn't been able to do it. He hasn't been able to do it. We want to ask if that quote, guys, is fair or foul. So we'll send Zach to the chat. Is that Ryan Tannehill quote number 1 fair or foul? But first, Zach, tell us all about Farm Bureau health plans.
FBHP.com is where you need to go to get your new health plan. I went and got my new health plan earlier this year, and I'm glad that I did. Better coverage, better rates, better service, 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. FBHP.com/A to Z. My rate went down 20% once I switched, and I did get better coverage. And unfortunately, I've had to use that coverage, right? You never want to use it. But the good thing is I had that coverage. So visit FBHP.com. You go through a quick health assessment. Once you go through the health assessment, they give you a quote, and then you decide if you want to make the move. I'm glad I made the move. Make sure that you at least know your quote, and then have the deciding factor to say, hey, I need to change my plan, and it can help you or your family. It doesn't matter. And that's kind of the best part about Farm Bureau health plans is it can help an individual, a single individual, somebody with a wife and kids. I mean, they have plans for everybody. That's FBHP.com/A to Z.
Don't forget, download the BetMGM app. Football season is really rapidly approaching. It's the best time to join the BetMGM app family with Zach and I and several of our A to Z viewers as well. And that intro offer is your first bet's risk-free up to $1,000, which is great. So what you do is you download the app, you plug in our code ATOZ Sports, and you make your first deposit, then your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. So you either win that, get the winnings from it, or you get it back so you can keep on playing with BetMGM. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older, Tennessee only, new customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as knowledgeable free bets or credit for bets expiring in 7 days. For problem game with support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. We're going through Mike Sando's quarterback tier rankings that he put together with 50 different NFL people giving him the analysis there. Ryan Tannehill comes in tier 3 at number 17 overall. And this quote number 1, we're asking fair or foul. In a couple of times, They've asked him to be the guy to win the games. He hasn't been able to do it. Zach, is the chat saying that's fair or foul?
The chat's saying that's fair. Xavier says fair. So does Eric. So does Keelan. Fair as fair can get right there. You can't disagree with that. I agree with Keelan. Jabu says fair. Mikey says fair. Totally fair from Jarrell. Terrence says fair. Steven does say foul. He won games he wasn't supposed to. So, right, that's true, but that's not what the quote is.
Sure, but right, and I guess like you can't have your cake and eat it too situation where like you can't dog Tannehill for losing games and then not give him the credit for winning the game that they weren't supposed to, right? Like and how he played in some other situations previously. So I think the point of that foul comment was that yes, he's had some tough games, but you can't take away what he's been able to accomplish.
And Ryan Tannehill won 2 games that he wasn't supposed to, right? He won New England against Tom Brady, the last time he ever put on a Patriots jersey, and he won in Baltimore.
There's more than that. I mean, you're focusing on playoff games, right?
Yes. Well, because ultimately, Austin, that's the reason why Ryan Tannehill is as low as he is in this tier.
But again,
because what did he just do?
No, Zach. Well, then how is Justin Herbert tier 1?
Because of youth. I mean, that's a whole different conversation.
But he hasn't been in the playoff game, so it's more.
No,
Zach,
it's not. Not with somebody. He hasn't had the opportunity, Austin.
Yes, he did. Justin Herbert had the opportunity to beat the Las Vegas Raiders in week 18 and lost.
He was not in the playoffs.
I know that.
Well, you don't know that because it's not the same.
Zach, whenever I say that I know that he was in the playoffs, you cannot say that I don't know that because I do know that because that is fact. Justin Herbert
tried to give an example that wasn't a playoff game.
No, that's the point. Is that he lost that opportunity, but Justin Herbert is still tier 1. So I understand why you're focusing only on Ryan Tannehill's playoff losses, but the quarterback tiers are all encompassing because if it was just focused on the playoffs, then Justin Herbert cannot be a tier 1 quarterback.
Austin,
he cannot.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Ryan Tannehill would be in tier 3 if he would have beaten the Cincinnati Bengals?
No, but he didn't. So
that's the point. That is the point. His playoff performance yields where he is in these tiers. If Ryan Tannehill takes the Titans to an AFC Championship game, whether he wins or loses against the Kansas City Chiefs, it doesn't matter. He's not in tier 3. So his performances in the playoffs at this stage in his career greatly impact where he is on quarterback ranking lists. It's just the facts. This particular quote, I think the chat has 100% gotten correct. It is fair.
But when we are saying that Ryan Tannehill has won games that he wasn't supposed to, there's more than just the wins against New England and Baltimore in the playoffs. He doesn't get enough credit for that win against the Ravens in the playoffs in Baltimore. He needs more credit for that because he threw the 2 touchdown passes to get them up 14-3 or whatever it was. Right. So, but I also look at the 2019 game in Nashville against the Chiefs. There was a shootout when Tannehill led the game-winning drive and threw that touchdown pass to Adam Humphries, right? That's a game the Titans were not supposed to win. They blew out the Chiefs this past year. Weren't supposed to win that. They've beaten the Buffalo Bills 2 straight years in shootouts in games they were not supposed to win. Ryan Tannehill should get credit for those wins. So
yes, but that credit doesn't mean that much.
Okay.
There's different levels of credit, right? Playoff credit is different than regular season credit, where not everybody watched those games.
If we're going to, I understand what you're saying, but if we're going to talk about resumes and if Justin Herbert is going to be a top 6 quarterback for what he's done in the last 2 regular seasons, and I'm not arguing that he shouldn't be there. I'm just saying, since he's there, you have to take the full resume into effect of this conversation.
But it's also weighted. That is my point. Playoff games, Justin Herbert has not been judged on a playoff game, correct?
So he gets the benefit from that.
Yes.
And, most quarterbacks, most head coaches have losing playoff records. That's the nature of going to the playoffs.
We talk about the millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people that watch NFL playoff games. Justin Herbert has never been featured in one of those games.
Yeah, but guess who's not voting on this tier list? Those millions of people who watch it on TV.
It still influences. Look, Justin Herbert has not been graded on a playoff performance. Ryan Tannehill has been graded on multiple.
Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to say about this anonymous quote number one. Overall, it is a fair quote about Ryan Tannehill. Now, I will react to what Zach said. You mentioned that he was not able to win in the AFC title game against the Chiefs. He was not able to beat the Ravens at home in the playoffs, and obviously fell up short with 3 interceptions against the Bengals this past January. I say yes about the Bengals game. Obviously, that is all on Ryan Tannehill's shoulders for how that game ended and the result of the Titans going home early. But I think Derrick Henry also came up short in the Ravens playoff game and in the Chiefs playoff game. And with Derrick Henry not being able to be the dude that he was in the previous playoff wins, he should get blamed for that too.
But
just like Derrick. Hold on, I'm not done talking.
You call on your quarterback. Listen to the quote.
I understand that, but listen, Zach, in the Chiefs game, in the AFC title, they wanted to win that game on Derrick Henry's shoulders. In the game against Baltimore and Nissan Stadium in January of 2021, the game plan was to win that on Derrick Henry's shoulders, and Derrick Henry in the run game, which includes the offensive line, got smacked in the face and shut down. That's also the fact too. So Derrick Henry deserves credit for when he runs for 180 against the Ravens, but he also deserves blame for when he runs for 40 against the Ravens the next year in the playoffs. That needs to be more widely known and talked about. That Derrick Henry is not perfect. He deserves zero blame for this past Bengals game because he's coming off an injury and not doing anything for 13, 14 weeks. Nothing on Henry's shoulders for the Bengals game. All on Tannehill, but let's not just exclude Derrick Henry from this.
You call on your quarterback to win the football game. In that AFC championship game, going into the fourth quarter, it was 21-17. It wasn't like it was a blowout. Let's be fair. That AFC championship game, they didn't score a single point in the third quarter. Going into the fourth, the Titans had the opportunity to go to Miami in that sense, because that's when it was.
Yep.
And they could not do it on the shoulders of their quarterback.
Zach,
Austin, running backs don't win championships.
Okay, we're going back too far for this. And so
because that was the best opportunity for him to go to a Super Bowl.
We're going back too far a little bit for this because it's 3 playoffs ago. But in that game, if you're saying the Titans are down by 4 points in a playoff game in the fourth quarter, then Derrick Henry is still heavily involved and option number 1 for the offense because of the score and situation.
Austin,
I'm not wrong by saying
works, don't you? You know how football works? You know how new age football works?
Yeah, but Zach,
in the fourth quarter, you know who the most important player on the field is?
I understand.
No, I'm asking,
dude.
Zach, don't be an idiot. Who is it?
It's the quarterback. But the Titans, the Titans are different. And go back to January 2020 and remember the dominance that Derrick Henry was at that point.
Austin.
And so the Titans
are different.
You're giving excuses.
But the game is not
overall, man.
The game is not.
Oh my God.
There's blame. There's always different courses of blame. I understand that. But when the rubber meets the road in the playoffs, quarterbacks win games.
Yeah, read
the quote. It says a couple of times when they've asked him to be the guy to win games. Be the guy to win games at the quarterback position. That is the quote. You're getting off into Derrick Henry.
No, I'm focusing on who the Titans are and who they were in January
at the end of the day, Austin, to win a Super Bowl, it has to be up to Ryan Tannehill to win those games. It cannot be all Derrick Henry.
Again,
it's proven over the last 2 decades.
But if you're telling me, again, we've been over this game a million times. I hate the fact that we're going back to this. But if you're telling me the Titans are down by 4 points in the fourth quarter of a playoff game and you don't rely on Derrick Henry to win you that game, you're crazy.
Against the high-powered Kansas City Chiefs, you're not going to win it with just the running back.
It's 4-0 with 15 minutes
You're
left.
not going to win it with just Derrick Henry. You know that.
Okay. All right. So again, I think the quote overall is fair. All right. So let's get to quote number 2, because I'm going to defend Ryan Tannehill on this as well. Here's quote number 2 from Mike Sandoz. He talks about Derrick Henry's absence and how he had averaged an additional 2.1 yards per pass attempt on early downs when Henry was on the field. And that took a big hit, obviously, when Derrick Henry got hurt. So here's the quote. Tannehill relied on the team more than the team relied on him because the moments when he could have brought the team back, especially in that Kansas City game we just talked about, he couldn't make it happen. I'm still waiting for that defining moment from Ryan Tannehill. It still hasn't happened yet. That's why I have him as tier 3. He's got tier 2 potential and talent, but just in the big moments, it hasn't translated. So I think the first sentence of this, Tannehill relied on the team more than the team relied on him. That is interesting to me. Zach, what do you think?
I love this quote. I love all of that quote. That quote makes a lot of sense because, look, I didn't read that quote. We went into this show where, and this is how organic, right? These are not planned arguments or conversations. We're not Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. Yeah, go screw yourself. We're not that. So this is instant, really organic reaction. I had not seen that quote before. And I literally had just spoken about what that quote represented before I even read it. And it's true. Ultimately, and I think this has been my problem, and we asked a question last week about, do you trust how they've organized the roster and how they're playing, right? And I was skeptical of that. And the reason why I'm skeptical of it is I don't believe that Ryan Tannehill can be relied upon. And I think the most important position in team sport, which is the quarterback, in this day and age, to win a Super Bowl, Matthew Stafford had to be relied on. Tom Brady had to be relied on. Patrick Mahomes had to be relied on. To get to a Super Bowl, Joe Burrow had to be relied on last year. And I just don't think that Ryan Tannehill, even within the offense that asks him to do different things, I will say that, he cannot be a reliable resource to take the Titans to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. I don't think he has that skill set. And I think quote number 2, we're still waiting on that defining moment. It hasn't happened yet. And that's why he's in tier 3. He has tier 2 potential. I think we all agree that he has tier 2 potential. But the fact of the matter is, and I assume we're going to get to this in the next quote after we react to this quote, the 2 quarterbacks above him, Kirk Cousins has better statistics, especially last year and the last 2 years, and Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl and an NFC championship last year. In those moments, you've seen them do more than Ryan Tannehill when called upon. Derrick Henry is the driving force of the Tennessee Titans. I'm not saying anything everybody doesn't already know, but that doesn't win you the massive games. The quarterback position does. And I think that's the reason why they're justifying him being in tier 3.
All right. So look, I agree with a lot of what you just said in reaction to that. I'm going to defend Ryan Tannehill with 3 stats about the beginning of this quote. Tannehill relied on the team more than the team relied on him. I'm going to defend our guy Ryan Tannehill, the Titans guy Ryan Tannehill, with 3 stats about that, because I don't think that's fair. But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Whenever you get hurt in life, you got to make sure you know where to go to get healthy, right? I've got plantar fasciitis. It unfortunately runs in the family. My mom's got it. I went and got a steroid shot from Dr. Jeff Watson at the Bone and Joint Institute last month, and it's helped me get back running again. The pain has subsided, and I can go do whatever I want to do when it comes to my life or working out or walking on the beach, whatever it might be. Tell my mom, go see Dr. Watson, the Bone and Joint Institute, to help you out there too. You guys should as well. boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM, we are powered by that app, and that app should power your phone right there. Download it on your Apple or Android app store. BetMGM, use the promo code ATOZ Sports. Risk-free bet up to $1,000. $1,000 you can bet with that promo code ATOZ Sports. If you lose that bet, you get that money back. That's what we're hooking you up with. Download the app today. That's BetMGM, promo code ATOZ SPORTS, all one word, no spaces. That's your promo code. Download the app today.
All right. So the Ryan Tannehill quote is that the team, he relied on the team more than the team relied on him. So I don't like that because I think that puts I think it's talking about one game, right? And I think we need to look at the scope of Tannehill's season. And 3 stats that back up Ryan Tannehill with this, Zach, are the fact that his offensive line was not good last year in pass protection. And honestly, Ryan Tannehill, percentage of pressure dropbacks with quarterback responsibility, Ryan Tannehill was responsible for the lowest percentage of pressures on his dropbacks of any quarterback in the NFL. Only 3.8% of Ryan Tannehill's pressures were his fault. He got sacked 47 times. That's second most in the NFL. And it's not his, and 3% of that.
No, I mean, I was laughing at the number. Like,
no,
which is
but
wild.
3% of that is Ryan Tannehill's fault for the pressure. So that tells me that he's not getting enough time compared to everybody else in the NFL because, I mean, that's a big deal there. So we know that he was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So Ryan Tannehill was also top 5 last season in on-target throw percentage. He was 5th behind Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray, and Joe Burrow with a 79% on-target percentage per Sports Info Solution. So very accurate. Top 5 accurate on-target quarterback last season, and also being pressured and sacked the second most. Here's the kicker. Because if you're under pressure and you don't have a lot of time, you need separation. The Tennessee Titans pass catchers were dead last in the NFL. 32 of 32 in the NFL in average separation last season. Dead last. So you're telling me Ryan Tannehill had some of the worst pass protection in the league. He had the worst separation from his pass catchers, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, everybody. But he was a top 5 accurate passer. That tells me why Ryan Tannehill struggled so much in the season. And in the Bengals game, I think it was one game that went horribly wrong. And that sucks. For anybody to be defined in their worst moment sucks, right? Any human being. Because you can have a great career and your worst moment on the biggest stage, that's what people will remember you from. But Ryan Tannehill carried the team last year. So I'm defending Ryan Tannehill on this quote. Tannehill relied on the team more than the team relied on him. BS. Ryan Tannehill carried the team last season when nobody could stay healthy, when nobody could get open, and nobody could pass block their guy in front of them. Ryan Tannehill was the guy who carried the Titans to a 12-5 record and a number 1 seed. It sucked that it fell apart in the playoff game, but we got to give him credit for all the crap he went throughout that season, the long year.
Right.
So that's my defense of Ryan Tannehill here.
As I've always stated, nobody cares about the regular season. Peyton Manning was the regular season king, but we criticized him to all end until he won a Super Bowl. It's just how our NFL community judges people. It's just how it is. So you cannot change the game, Austin. And I think the tense of these, so past tense, right? Relied. I would ask you this.
Everything's past tense.
I would ask you this, though.
Okay.
Do you believe that the team relies more on Ryan Tannehill, or Ryan Tannehill relies more on the team as the makeup goes? Of the Tennessee Titans, what do you think is more fact?
I mean, I think the team relies, again, the Titans are set up differently than every other.
I just want you to answer.
Okay. So I think the team relies more on offensive balance than any other team in the NFL.
I'm asking you a question. Which one is it? You're not answering it.
I don't think it's an A or B.
You think the Tennessee, I'll ask it again, and I just want you to answer it. I don't want you to skirt around and run on the fence. Austin, I just want you to answer it.
Okay.
Tennessee Titans setup. Do you believe that the team relies more on Ryan Tannehill or Ryan Tannehill relies more on the team? I just want you to answer that question. I don't want you to give an explanation. I want you to answer it, and then you can explain it, but answer it.
I don't think – no, they rely on Ryan Tannehill to stay healthy, because if Ryan Tannehill's not out there, then –
You're not answering any of these
Zach,
questions.
the question's non-applicable to the Titans.
It is. I'm asking you a question. You will refuse to answer it. Could you
I don't
please
like
answer
the question.
it?
It's not
I didn't ask you if you liked it.
I
asked you to answer it. What do you think, in your opinion, more? Does Ryan Tannehill rely more on the team, or does the team rely more on Ryan Tannehill as the makeup of the Tennessee Titans? That's the third and final time I'm going to ask you the question.
It's not how football works, Zach.
I'm asking you a question.
And
I'm not asking about how football
You're acting like there's only two answers. That's not how this works.
I'm asking you, how do you think the Titans are set up?
The offense relies on the running game. So if that's what you want me to ask or answer, then it's yes.
You're a fence rider.
You're asking me a loaded question. I'm not going to fall into it.
No, it's not a loaded question, because that is the point of what this anonymous quote, which is kind of funny, is saying, is that conceptually how the Titans are made up. And Austin, you said your answer earlier.
That's not how football works, dude.
Austin, you said your answer earlier. I'm basing it on what we are talking about. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I'm basing this on the quote that we were discussing. And the fact is, what you said in the AFC Championship game no more than like 6 minutes ago is that they needed to rely on Derrick Henry in that AFC Championship game. So to me, that is what the makeup of the Tennessee Titans are. You won't answer the question.
That was 3 years ago. Again,
what is the quote? Please, Austin. No. Read the first sentence.
That's what I defended with my stats. Tannehill relied on the team more than the team relied on him. That is unfair, in my opinion.
Complete the sentence.
Because in the moments where he could have brought the team back, especially when they played against Kansas City, he couldn't make it happen. But also, that's when the game plan of running the football and controlling the line of scrimmage failed.
You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's the point.
We're
referencing the AFC Championship game as the quote was, right? And I didn't even know that was going to happen. As I referenced it, you said, this is your words, not mine, that in that game, they needed to rely on Derrick Henry, correct?
In the AFC Championship game?
Yeah, and that's what the quote is saying. Exactly. Yeah. And so the makeup of their team is to rely more on Derrick Henry, who is the best offensive player on their team, right?
Zach,
there's no question of that.
Zach,
it is to rely more on Derrick Henry than to rely on Ryan Tannehill. That is what the quote, I believe, as I read it, is trying to exemplify.
In that game 3 playoffs ago, yes. In the game 6 months ago in the playoffs, it was more on Tannehill.
What about the Ravens? What did you say about the Ravens?
That was, 2 playoffs ago, that game plan was about Derrick Henry.
Right. So you're telling me out of the 3 playoff losses, and these are your words, not mine, that 2 of those they should have relied on Derrick Henry, and then the one time they did rely on Ryan Tannehill, he failed. That's the point.
But Derrick Henry's number 1 running back in the world.
But it goes to the quote of what he's trying to say. And they're saying that the team relies, and that's not usually the makeup of a Super Bowl team. The makeup of a Super Bowl team is to rely on your quarterback, not Derrick Henry, not your running back, not your wide receiver. It's not bubble screens. It is to rely singularly on your quarterback. Austin, out of the 3 playoff losses, they should have, in your words, relied on somebody besides the quarterback twice.
No.
And when they did, he threw a pick and lost the game.
Zach, the Titans' game plan against the Chiefs in that playoff game was to control the line of scrimmage. It's not like rocket science. We know what the freaking Titans are.
You stated all of this
I know
stuff,
that.
though.
But
you said
again,
that the team should have not relied on the quarterback. They should have relied on the running back. That's what the quote.
No, dude. I'm saying, I am saying that Derrick Henry deserves as much responsibility for losing those 2 games as Tannehill does. Does that make sense?
Relying on Derrick Henry.
Let me say this one more time, that Derrick Henry's subpar running performance against the Chiefs in the AFC title game and against the Ravens in Nissan Stadium in the wild card round deserves as much heat as Ryan Tannehill does for losing those games. I'm not saying that they should rely on Derrick Henry more than Tannehill. I'm saying the Titans lost and everybody blames Ryan Tannehill.
Well, you said that for the AFC Championship game. You did state that they should have relied on Derrick Henry.
Zach, that was the game. Everybody freaking knew that. That was the game plan going into this.
That's the point, Austin. He's saying
that was 3 years ago, Zach.
What do you think the quote is?
Yes, and I have a problem with somebody quoting something from 3 years ago for 2022.
But Austin, not much has changed because they changed the philosophy and they relied on Ryan Tannehill this past season and they lost.
Doesn't that sound idiotic that somebody should hold something against the quarterback for something that happened 3 years ago?
No, it's the makeup and the structure of what the results have been, Austin. So they relied on their quarterback this past season, right, in Cincinnati. Correct or incorrect? And what happened?
Yeah, Ryan Tannehill had the worst game of his life.
So
then nobody's denying.
We have to judge him. We cannot judge him based on him having the best game of his life because he had the worst game of his life.
All right. So,
but do you understand the quote? All I'm trying to do is explain. I disagree with your complete foulness of this quote. But I understand it, and I was trying to explain it to you. You brought up some good stats and some good points of how Ryan Tannehill got to this point, but it started our conversation. A lot of times, and I would say 90% of times, NFL fans judge players on how they perform in the biggest games, not necessarily the full sample size of the season.
Yeah.
Is that right? And so we have to take that into consideration.
All right. So Dion says, Austin, I disagree. Defenses sell out to shut down Derrick Henry. And the passing game failed to get it done when Henry got shut down. Yeah, because and I think we can all say this. In those games, in the 3 games we're talking about, the last 3 playoff games the Titans have played where they all lost, the offense as a whole struggled to adapt. Whether it was Arthur Smith calling the plays, because let's not forget, that was probably the worst game Arthur Smith has called against the Ravens at home in the playoffs. It was bad. It was really bad. Mike Vrabel had a really passive decision to punt in plus territory on 4th down. Remember that? It was called like the most passive 4th down decision in like the history since they've been tracking those things. So there's been a lot of coaching failures of lack of adapting to the game plan and to the game situation. So again, my entire point of this is that Ryan Tannehill shoulders too big of a percentage of the blame in these losses previous to Cincinnati. Cincinnati was all about
he's the quarterback.
I know, but that's Zach, I can have an opinion as somebody who has a platform to say that yes, against Cincinnati, that loss is on Todd Downing and Ryan Tannehill. Ryan
Tannehill should be the first word out of your mouth.
Okay. And I said it both ways because I don't give a damn. Interchangeable. Both those guys failed the team. But against the Ravens and against the Chiefs, there's a lot of against the Chiefs.
But Tannehill threw the interception against the Ravens, Austin.
Yeah,
do you not
Khalif
remember?
Raymond. Why? Because Corey Davis got hurt.
That's an excuse, not a reason.
Khalif Raymond got. And Khalif Raymond
That's an excuse. That's an excuse,
not
a reason.
Remember the play. Khalif Raymond fell down.
Nobody cares.
I do. You should care about the details.
Ryan Tannehill, the point is of what the quote is saying is relying on Ryan Tannehill this past season, and they did at times, but especially in the playoff game, it didn't work. That's how you're remembered. And so the question mark going forward, and especially into this season, is can you rely on Ryan Tannehill, and can that get you where you need to go? Simply.
Oh, I mean,
that's the question, right?
And that's the question that we will find out the answer to this season.
But if you're still asking that question about your quarterback, I do believe that that's not a great thing.
But again,
that's probably tier. No, Austin, here's my final statement. That is a tier 3 type of problem, correct?
I'm not denying I don't have a problem with him being in tier 3. But again, and I've said this several times throughout the last 7 months, the hardest part to analyze this Titans season is that it's super nuanced and the offense was all banged up and beat up, and Ryan Tannehill was getting smacked in the face, sacked a bunch, and quarterbacks or wide receivers and tight ends couldn't get open all season long. And then in the playoffs, he crumbled. And so you had a lot of both things happen, and it's hard to argue one thing. The regular season problems and the playoff problems are different, but you have to take that into account altogether to see what the season's going to be.
I don't think that you can argue that Ryan Tannehill is a questionable quarterback to get a franchise a Super Bowl. That's kind of the whole point of this conversation.
Not once have I argued that he
No,
can win.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is why we're having these conversations, is because Ryan Tannehill is in tier 3, and these quotes are negative towards Ryan Tannehill or question Ryan Tannehill. Well, correct?
I agree. I think I think quote number 1 was fair. I defended Tannehill on quote number 2. Both
are negative.
Well, yeah. I mean, because he's dropped off he was tier 2, now he's tier 3. So he's slid.
Yeah, because of, again, the impactful performance against the Bengals.
All right, so let's get to quote number 3 here, because it's something that Zach's been talking about all offseason. But first, tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your next ride. That's wilsoncountyhyundai.com. They've got the Palisade, they've got the Elantra, the Sonata, the Tucson, the Santa Fe, and they have the Ioniq, which is battery powered. You can go online and get Payne Bone on the horn. Call Payne Bone. He's family owned and operated. We're good friends with Payne Bone, who owns Wilson County Hyundai. We've test driven these cars. They are a reliable resource for you and your family. If you are in the market for a new vehicle, you can order the Ioniq, which is battery powered, or get a fuel efficient vehicle like I named before. That's wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Also, don't forget, you need to download the BetMGM app and use our code ATOZ Sports. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000 after your first deposit to join the BetMGM family like Zach and I did a couple of years ago. It's so much fun, and football season is a great time to join. So download the app, use our code ATOZ Sports with a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first bet after your first deposit. So Zach, this one gets interesting with quote number 3 here from Mike Sando's athletic QB tiers. An offensive coach who placed Tannehill, Cousins, and Matt Ryan in the second tier thought the cutoff should fall after Tannehill and these guys, right? So he had this particular coach had Tannehill in tier 2. I haven't changed on Tannehill at all. He's doing exactly what he does. He's the AFC version of Kirk Cousins. You can smile on that one, Zach. The last 2 years, he's been very successful, very efficient. If you replace Tannehill with Matt Ryan, would you be as successful? I believe you would. If you replaced him with Kirk Cousins, would you be the same? I think you'd be the same, because those are all good quarterbacks. Now, if you replaced Ryan Tannehill with some of those tier 3 guys, would they be as good? I don't think so. So I think this is an interesting exercise, and maybe we can kind of hold on to some of this, because the tier 3 quarterbacks like Garoppolo, I'm going to continue to scroll through. Garoppolo, Mac Jones, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, and Jameis Winston. I think the Titans are probably all worse with those quarterbacks, right?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, I kind of have to put aside because he's so young.
Yeah,
right?
And that's fair. That's a tough one to.
So let's put him aside, and then because all the other ones we have a greater sample size of them.
Yes, and Strike says that's a good rational argument. I like it. That third coach actually sounds very rational.
The problem is, and I agree with Strike because I've been saying it I've been saying it for months. I don't believe that Kirk Cousins can win a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo has proven that he can't either, right? And Jimmy Garoppolo had a stellar team last year, and they fought hard, and they couldn't make it to the Super Bowl. They lost to the Rams in the NFC Championship game. All of those quarterbacks in tier 3, I do not believe can win a Super Bowl. I don't think that they have. I don't think, and it kind of, again, I believe that they rely on their team more than their team relies on them. I believe that for that sample size. Kirk Cousins is unique because his statistics, I mean, he is He's a 4,000 yard passer, right? I mean, that's the reason why Justin Jefferson is as good and has the numbers as he does. Kirk Cousins, the last 2 years, 35 touchdowns thrown, 33 touchdowns thrown. Last year, he only threw 7 interceptions, but they didn't make the playoffs, right? They couldn't get it done. And so, but I don't believe, if you had to put me on the stand and you asked me, do you think Kirk Cousins can win a Super Bowl? My answer would be no.
It's tough because, like you mentioned, the 3 stats that I defended Tannehill with the quarterback pressure responsible for and the accuracy. Kirk Cousins second in least pressure that's his fault, and is a top 5 accurate quarterback according to those stats.
And look, Jesse says Cousins is not better than Tannehill. No way. I think that they're the exact same. I mean, I think that Spider-Man meme, because both have deficiencies, right? They're different. They're different type of players. Ryan Tannehill is much faster than Kirk Cousins. We all know that. Ryan Tannehill scores more rushing touchdowns himself than Kirk Cousins. But Kirk Cousins utilizes his wide receivers a lot better than Ryan Tannehill.
I mean, it's hard to say that, Zach.
No, it's not. I mean, look at the statistics.
What do you mean?
Look
Zach,
at this.
Everybody was hurt last year. All of Tannehill's wide receivers were hurt. So look at 2020. If you want to compare Kirk Cousins using Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, look at 2020 when the Titans had, by the way, a 2,000-yard rusher, and A.J. Brown was over 1,000, and Corey Davis should have gotten over 1,000, and that's not Corey Davis. That's not Ryan Tannehill's fault. Ryan Tannehill almost had Corey Davis a 1,000-yard receiver. So you of all people should give Tannehill a lot of credit for that.
2 years ago, Kirk Cousins had better statistics in all 3 categories of passing yards, touchdowns, and interceptions.
I understand that, but
you know
what he did? Yes, but you know what he didn't have? A 2,000-yard rusher taking away a lot of opportunity.
Well, you could give and take. 2,000-yard rusher gave Ryan Tannehill a lot of opportunity.
No, 2,000-yard rusher covers up a lot of yards available.
It's called play action fakes. Did you watch the season?
Zach, Tannehill broke the Tennessee Titans record for most passing yards in a season, while Derrick Henry had the 5th biggest rushing season in NFL history. They put up so many yards in 2020.
They're the same. Do you disagree with that?
I don't disagree with that. I'm disagreeing with your point that you said that Kirk Cousins uses his wide receivers better than Tannehill, when it's not fair to compare Kirk Cousins' passing stats in 2021 to Tannehill's passing stats in 2021.
Well, he's had less interceptions as well.
Yes.
As a quarterback, as a throwing quarterback, which has
better receivers. He's had better receivers that got open.
Right.
Like, did you have amnesia and forget the fact that Ryan Tannehill had the least separation of his pass catchers?
They are the same. Kirk Cousins is Ryan Tannehill, and Ryan Tannehill is Kirk Cousins. Both of those guys are not adequate enough to win a Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yes, but again, I think I agree with this quote. I think that if you replaced Tannehill with Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins, then the Titans would be basically the same type of quarterback.
You get the same result. Yeah.
So I think that coach, I think Ryan Tannehill and Kirk Cousins should probably be in tier 2, at the end of tier 2. I'm not saying to change their number rankings, but I think those 2 guys, Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill, deserve to be separated from Jameis Winston, deserve to be separated from Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, and Mac Jones. I think Kirk Cousins and Tannehill deserve to be in a separate category than all those guys I just named.
Well, what they should do is they should have a Spider-Man category, which is Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, and
they're their own tier.
Right. And Matt Ryan. There's 3 of them, and there's 3 Spider-Man. That is the Spider-Man tier. Because I think that quote is absolutely fair. I'm with you. We know that. The problem is that the hard part is on your team, do you want that?
And then, no, you'd rather have a top 10 quarterback, obviously. But that's not everybody. Not all 32 teams can have a top 10 quarterback. That's not how math works either. So
but you got to be damned to find one. I understand why. Yeah. Look, I don't agree with it. I understand the salary cap. I get the checks and balances of the NFL. Now the Rams don't, but I look at that and I say, this is probably Ryan Tannehill's last year as a Tennessee Titan?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know about that. It just depends. There's got to be a better option that's available. We'll find out what happens. But yeah, next year will be easier to move on.
Or options. I'm with you. There has to be a better option or options. Options could be Malik Willis, or options could be a free agent quarterback that gets disgruntled during the year that wants to go to another team.
Yeah, but the fact is that, yes, Ryan Tannehill will be easy to move on from after this season than he was this past offseason. There's no denying that.
Yeah, and I think we all agree, as we've talked about, if Ryan Tannehill, ifs and buts, beer and nuts, if Ryan Tannehill would have won and gotten those 3 points against Cincinnati, he's in tier 2. We think about Ryan Tannehill in a completely different light, because the taste in our mouth is not an interception intended for Nick Westbrook IKEA. You're not in good hands because the interception went to the wrong person's hands. Now we ended that season. And look, I don't, as a human, I don't relish in the fact of, like, it's terrible that Ryan Tannehill ended his year like that. Ryan Tannehill notoriously is a very nice person. He's a good guy. But this is not nice guys, right? We're not basing it on nice guys. We're basing it on what you can do on the field, on football, as far as these tiers are concerned. And Austin, I would ask you this. Would you put Ryan Tannehill in tier 2 or 3?
I think he deserves to be in the same tier as Kirk Cousins, but I think both Kirk Cousins and Tannehill are closer to tier 2s than they are tier 3s. I just don't think it's fair to put Cousins and Tannehill with Jameis Winston and Baker Mayfield. It's not the same.
You've just spoken a lot of sentences without answering the question.
I think they're closer to tier 2. I would feel better.
Hey,
I said that. Like,
no, you didn't.
Yes, I did. I literally said
you skated around it for the last, like,
no, I did not. Damn it. I said I think Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill should be closer to tier 2 than tier 3. They don't deserve to be in the same class as Jameis Winston and Baker Mayfield. That was the complete sentence I said. You must have missed the first part of it.
You didn't answer the question until the end. So
it's time for all right.
No. Look, let me answer it. I will answer it. I will answer it. I believe Matt Ryan should be in tier 3. I think all 3 of them should be in tier 3. I think that Matt Ryan, the fact that he is put in tier 2 is ridiculous. I think Kirk Cousins, Ryan Tannehill, and Matt Ryan and Jimmy Garoppolo should all be tier 3 for this year. And all 4 of those guys have an opportunity. Garoppolo is going to be a little different because he doesn't know where he's going to play. All of them have an opportunity to earn tier 2 status. But I don't think, based on the past season, with Matt Ryan being on a poor team, Kirk Cousins not making the playoffs, and Ryan Tannehill throwing 3 interceptions in his home playoff divisional game after a bye, those do not deserve to be in tier 2.
Here's my answer. I think there should be 6 tiers. I don't think there's enough tiers here. I think tier 3 is too wide with 10 quarterbacks in tier 3. No, give me a break. Like, that's not how. I think there should have been 6 tiers. I think Ryan, Tannehill, and then Kirk Cousins should be a group, and maybe Garoppolo if you want to, or whatever. But I think you should group those 4 together and then put the others, Mac Jones, Baker Mayfield, and Jameis Winston, and Carson Wentz, and Jalen Hurts. No, they can be tier 4.
Those guys are closer to those guys than the guys above in tier 2.
So I think they should be in their own tier. I think there's
but that's not how the game works, right?
I understand.
I know you can't. I've already changing the rules. That's what I'm saying.
All right, let's get to a game where there's actual right answers with Tuesday Sports Trivia here on A to Z Sports. Presented by BrentwoodImprint.com, Tuesday Sports Trivia. You can elevate your brand and business with a lot of different gear at BrentwoodImprint.com, whether it's office supplies, mugs, cups, services, or shirts, t-shirts, sweatshirts, polos, whatever you need to make your business or your brand look more professional, or maybe help your brand grow. BrentwoodImprint.com is where to go. But Zach, it is time for Tuesday Sports Trivia. Here on this Tuesday, we are 16-4. So we have gone 9-1 and then 7-3 over the last 2 weeks. And so now we have an opportunity to have a strong week to get us continued as training camp opens tomorrow.
All right, let's start with the NBA. The NBA presented an MVP award to the player who performed the best during the seeding games in the bubble. Who won this award? The NBA presented an MVP award to a player who performed the best during the seeding games in the bubble. Who won this award? James Harden, TJ Warren, Damian Lillard, or Devin Booker? I think I know the answer. Do you, Austin?
Stephen King says Booker. I mean, I did not. I think I watched the Grizzlies play in the bubble, but that
was Devin Booker's last second shot when he was falling away and fell on the court, basically back down.
Yeah, we've got a lot of Bookers.
I think it was Booker.
Okay. Who's TJ Warren?
Well, we gonna lock it in?
Yeah. Devin Booker, final A to Z.
So the correct answer is not Devin Booker.
Oh no.
God. It's Damian Lillard. He averaged 37.6 points per game and eventually led the Trailblazers to an eventual playoff berth.
Damn, 0-1 start. That's not good.
God. That's like you look around, you're like, how? I mean, the chat was Booker, right?
Yeah, chat was heavy Booker, and then I think the second was TJ Warren. I don't even know who that is. 0-1 start. Got to climb out of this.
God bless. All right, NFL. Which one of these quarterbacks was the last one inducted to the NFL Hall of Fame? Bobby Lane, Terry Bradshaw, Ken Stabler, or Bob Greasy? Kind of all around the same era. Which of these quarterbacks was the last one inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame? Bobby Lane, Terry Bradshaw, Ken Stabler, or Bob Greasy?
For some reason, I want to say Stabler. I feel like he was did he go in after he passed? No. But Scott says Stabler will lock it in.
I met Ken Stabler at an Ole Miss Alabama game, and I shook his hand with his Super Bowl ring on. The Snake.
I've heard he was an incredible guy.
And he's tall. He's like 6'5", 6'6".
Was. We're getting a lot of Stabler answers. There's a couple.
I think that's kind of our gut.
There's a couple Bob Greasy's as well. I think we need to go Ken Stabler, final A to Z.
All-American at Alabama, the Snake played 15 years in the NFL from 70 to 84, four-time Pro Bowl selection, coached by John Madden, and was the last one inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame out of those four.
Okay, 1-1.
All right, let's keep rolling with the NFL. I played in 1973 to 1987 and ran the offense known as the Air Coryell.
So who am I?
Who am I?
Ooh.
Roman Gabriel, Jim Plunkett, Dan Fouts, or Warren Moon. 1973 to 87 ran an offense known as the Air Coryell.
Fouts. That's the immediately we got Fouts answers. Dan Fouts, final A to Z.
Six-time Pro Bowl selection, Dan Fouts. And played for the San Diego Chargers, inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1993.
All right, 2-1.
All right, let's see here. Let's go to back to the play or back to the bubble, let's just say. The NBA All-Star Game introduced a new format for the first time this season. What was it?
The play-in seedings, right?
The NBA All-Star Game introduced a new format for the first time during this season. So they've done a couple of different All-Stars, right? So they've had captain's pick, they've had East-West.
I think it's the captain's pick.
So like draft?
Yeah, like playground pick 'em, like as Jarrell said.
Well, they also had
Gator Hater says no defense. No, that was happening before.
No. So what year did Kobe die?
2020.
So that was the bubble year, right?
January 26th, 2020. Yeah.
What the question is, NBA All-Star in a new format for the first time this season. They played a weird format that year when Kobe died. They had like 24, and I
Kobe
watched
quarter.
It. Yeah, do you remember that?
No.
That's got to be. I have a really good feeling that this is it because they played to 24, and then the last quarter was a different type of system.
So let's just say, yeah, because the 2020 All-Star game was before COVID, so they got that in. So it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks after Kobe died.
I think it's the Kobe rules.
The Kobe what?
But they did draft those players, I think. I want to say like it's Kobe rules.
Kobe rules. That's fine. I mean, I think I think we've got it. The Kobe Elam ending, somebody is saying. I don't know what that means, but
That sounds familiar. It was a different ending of the game. So let's lock in Kobe rules.
yeah, okay, that's fine. Final A to Z that.
Okay. During the game, the score resets at the end of every quarter. It is the Elam ending. And on the fourth quarter, there's no game clock. There's a target score, which determined by adding 24 points in Kobe's honor.
Okay. So I think that counts.
That does count. That has to count. I mean, I literally
3 and 1.
described the answer.
3 and 1.
All right. You know what documentary that I'm going to watch that I have not watched yet, which is The Captain featuring Derek Jeter. Here's some Derek Jeter questions. What is Jeter's hometown? New York, New York, Charlottesville, Oklahoma, Tampa Bay, Florida, or Kalamazoo, Michigan? What is Derek Jeter's hometown?
I think it's Kalamazoo.
He lives in Tampa Post, but I don't think he's from
Kalamazoo on YouTube. I think it's Kalamazoo. I feel pretty good about that.
You want to lock that in?
Donald says Kalamazoo. Ed says that. Shrike says that. Yeah. I mean, let's go with Kalamazoo. Final A to Z.
The correct answer, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
All right. So 4 and 1.
Let's follow up another Derek Jeter question. Now I'm kind of interested in what the answer is because I don't know. Which 2 major nationalities is Derek Jeter? African Irish, Venezuelan English, Cuban English, or French English? I had this question because I have no idea.
Go through them again.
African Irish, Venezuelan English, Cuban English, or French English?
So there's only one Irish.
Right. Well, and again, he's African American, so that would make sense. But this kind of also feels like a trick question.
Well, so the only guess, Kenny just came in with our first non-African Irish. So I'd say Titans Kyle says his mom is English Irish and his dad's African American. So let's go with African Irish. Final A to Z, African Irish.
Derek Jeter, his father Charles is black and his mother Dorothy is Irish.
Okay.
African Irish.
All right, we are 5 and 1.
Wow.
Let's keep going back to Derek Jeter.
Let's see. Next question is, let's see here. I gotta find it. Go Chiefs was my war cry when I won the 1970 Super Bowl. I was a 7-time Pro Bowl quarterback in my career. Who am I?
Lynn Dawson?
1970. So if we think of the 1970 Super Bowl,
Lynn
when
Dawson.
was the 1970 Super Bowl?
The Chiefs and the Jets. I think.
No, the Jets won their Super Bowl against the Colts.
But
Chiefs,
it's Lynn Dawson.
Packers.
It's Lynn Dawson. The answer is Lynn Dawson. Final A to Z.
Is that what the chat is saying, or is that what you're saying?
It has to be Lynn Dawson. Final A to Z, Lynn Dawson.
Inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1987, Lynn Dawson was who quarterbacked the Kansas City Chiefs, won Super Bowl in 1970.
Over the Vikings. All right. Hey, 6-1.
Vikings.
6-1. Now we're on to our comic book questions.
These are going to be tough. What superhero grew up on the planet Tamaran?
There's going to be people who get this.
Ultra Boy, Starfire, the Silver Surfer, or Hawk Girl? Which superhero grew up on the planet Tamaran? I mean, I have no idea. Silver Surfer is the one that, so Ultra Boy, Starfire, Silver Surfer, or Hawk Girl. Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four is the only one that I recognize, but I have no idea where the planet in comic book world of Tamaran is.
We've got Starfire, Silver Surfer, Hawk Girl, Starfire.
So every one of them, except for Ultra Boy.
Shrike says Starfire, lock it in.
We're going to have to rely on the chat for this.
I think we're going to go Starfire. Starfire was our first answer, and I think Starfire. Let's go with Starfire, final A to Z.
The youngest daughter of the planet's rulers, Starfire, grew up on Tamaran.
Okay. 7-1. What's our next comic question?
Who was the first costumed superhero? Arrow, the Phantom, Crimson Avenger, or Superman? Obviously, like Superman sounds correct, but I have no idea. Arrow, the Phantom, Crimson Avenger, or Superman?
I think it's the Crimson Avenger.
First costumed superhero.
Seth says Phantom. Titans, Kyle says Superman. Eric says Phantom. Jarrell says Crimson Avenger. Jeff says he's sitting next to a comic nerd. So that actually is within the rules of the game. That if you're in the same person as somebody, then they can answer.
And what did that comic nerd say?
We haven't got, that was a Starfire from the comic nerd. So now we need a follow up from Jeff's nerd friend.
We're going to have to lock something in.
Phantom has become the most popular answer on this one.
I think that's where we're going to have to answer it. We can't wait on his nerd.
All right, let's just go Phantom. Phantom, final A to Z.
The first fictional hero to wear the skin-tight costume, which became a hallmark of comic book superheroes, was the Phantom.
Ooh.
First appeared in the daily newspaper February 17th, 1936. At its peak, the strip was read by over 10 million people.
Nice. All right. 8-1. For our last question, can we sweep the non-sports 3?
We go to the king. Who was Elvis Presley's favorite superhero? Somebody has got to know.
Somebody's going to know it. We've got a big enough group of people where somebody's going to be an Elvis nut that also knows this. Gator Hater says Superman. Jarrell says Batman. Zach says Deadpool. I don't think Deadpool was around. Is it not a multiple choice?
No. Jerry Seinfeld's favorite superhero was Superman. Elvis's.
Repeat the question, Darius asks.
Who was Elvis Presley's favorite superhero?
And now several people are saying the Superman because the hair. The same,
that would make sense.
Has anybody seen the new movie?
I have not. I want to.
I have not either.
Superman does kind of look like Elvis.
Minus the physique. But
Captain.
I think we're gonna have to go with, let's just go Superman. And I think it's just,
You want to lock it in?
yeah, final A to Z.
I saw let's see here.
I just locked it in.
Elvis Presley loved reading comic books as a boy.
It's not
wow.
Superman.
In fact, according to legend, it was the character that inspired his jet black hair with a curl hanging down the middle of his forehead. His favorite superhero was Captain Marvel.
Yeah. I think people got it afterwards. I saw Big Ten Jeff's nerd friend said Captain Marvel, but it was after I had locked it in, so it didn't work.
Yeah, but we've got to fend off Googling.
No, I think, we missed it. 8-2. 8-2 is our.
What's the difference between Captain Marvel and Captain America?
I don't know who Captain Marvel is.
Well, Freddie Freeman. It's a fictional superhero. Captain Marvel Jr. It's funny. If you Google Captain Marvel Jr., the next word is Elvis.
I see Captain Marvel as a female.
Captain Marvel Jr.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it now. Okay. Well, 8-2.
8-2 is not bad.
No, we keep pace. We went 9-1, 7-3, 8-2. So we're 80%. This is winning trivia. We're winning here. Playing winning ball. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Tomorrow, big day, training camp. First practice starts. We'll have coverage from the press conference with Mike Vrabel, John Robinson, and Ryan Cowden at 11:30, so a couple hours away from right now. But you will not want to miss tomorrow's show. We have an announcement as well for our A to Z Titans coverage on tomorrow morning's show. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been telling you guys this for a month. Titans training camp coverage on our YouTube channel will be must see. So subscribe to our YouTube right now so you don't miss that, because all that starts tomorrow. So check it out there, A to Z Sports Nashville on YouTube. And Buck Rising will be live tonight for A to Z Sports Primetime, recapping what happens in this press conference coming up later. And we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a great Tuesday. Talk to you soon.
Adios.